Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about From Season 2, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're in the aftermath of everything. Boyd's made it back to town along with Elgin, Tabitha, and Victor. I have to correct that because someone had to point out last episode I kept calling him Vincent. I also looked at my nerd mode and I called him Vincent. I don't know why. The name Victor was staring me in the face and I still got it wrong and put Vincent on my nerd mode. I feel so stupid. And it's forever there. I'm not going to take it down and correct it. I don't know. I might have to edit it footage still. I don't know. Regardless, tangents and all that aside. Putting all that aside, the fact of the matter is we're really dealing in the aftermath. Obviously, we got a little bit of it last episode with everyone helping, trying to get the house off of Jim, which luckily we see that Jim was helped and he's recovering. Obviously, he's still got some broken ribs, a bruised lung, so he's going to be kind of down and out for a little bit, but everyone, that main dude who was kind of starting issues last episode, who kind of fell in line, now being like, nah, I'm going to take this gun, even though Donna's like, no, you're not going to take that gun. You know, there are rules to this town, which Boyd came over, it's like, I'm putting the sheriff badge back on. Okay, you can go out there, take that gun with you, and try your best, or you can have a roof over your head and follow the rules, and you're going to listen to this lady. It's like, okay, guy puts down the gun, walks away, calling Boyd an a-hole. So it's like, okay, it's like, all right, you got a lot of questions. We'll figure those out, but follow Donna back to, I guess they're all going to be staying at, Donna's for now, until they probably can fully situate, because it's not really a situation of I think we can figure where everyone else is staying for now out later because obviously usually everyone gets the choice of where you're going to stay in town or at Donna's, but got a lot to figure out. I mean, Boyd's got a lot to figure out because of last episode. It's like, did any of that happen? Because I went to a tree, which the tree stuff isn't too wild because Ethan and Victor know that's a thing. Even Julie knows that's a thing because Victor pushed her into one of those trees. So they all know those trees can take you anywhere. So that's not too wild. But now he doesn't know if everything post that tree was real. Because Ellis was asking him questions about it, but Boyd did not answer him any of those questions. Because he was kind of I went to the tree and then I was back in town. He completely skipped over the Martin thing because he doesn't know if was that real or not. Once again, who dropped the rope? Martin was chained up. Who dropped the rope? And so Boyd he's not really asking that question. And so, but the big question he's asking is, how could some guy who doesn't know you mention your name? He didn't know my name, yet somehow he knew Abby's name. It's that doesn't make sense. Unless it's maybe everyone that ever dies there, if you die there, you become a part of this place, that your spirit becomes part of the great consciousness. Yes, I don't know everything about you, but then it's he knew exactly this conversation that Boyd had with Abby. Well, because it was when she ended up, breaking down, as we learned in the past, and, ultimately when Boyd had to kill her to stop her from killing Ellis, she was thinking this was all a dream, this place started chipping away at her sanity, so. And I think that's also why Ellis is in the position he's in this episode, why he was you were supposed to get out there and find answers, try to get us home. Remember, now we're back to square one. But it's because Fatima is in the situation that she's in. For him, it's he believes everyone has something that they hold on to, a piece of themselves they're able to hold on to make heads or tails, to try and find some form of being grounded in this wild place. But he's last night I saw that piece of her chip away. It was finally enough was enough, and last night broke her, and he's scared because he didn't say it, but I feel the implication is he's worried she's going to give up, and it's just it might not play out exactly like his mom did, but that was kind of in the back of his mind when he was thinking about that. So, I mean, and I think it's so beautifully executed in this episode in a terrifying and heartbreaking way, but everyone's struggling with everything, because you even have Donna being I tried doing what you tried to do and I ended up getting a bunch of people killed, because there's supposed to be 25 people on the bus. Donna was told Boyd when they accounting the dead bodies they found already, that's at least 22. So there's at least two that were done. The two that were unaccounted for are Brian and Kelly, which we'll talk about them later. And so there's still potentially one more person that hasn't been accounted for that we don't know about. So potentially, like I said, that was just kind of a rough estimate. That it was, I don't know if they knew for sure it was 25 people. Maybe one of the bodies was also taken away, so we don't know. But, so it might only be 24 people, so. But for Donna, it's like, at the end of the day, I tried to be you. I mean, she's like, yeah, I ended up taking a shotgun to the tire of this truck, but Boyd tried to make her feel better by being like, no, like, you got to focus on the lives you save. But later on, she's like, I don't need a pep talk. I try to do what you do, and I can't handle this. We're all barely hanging on. Everyone who's used to this is already barely hanging on. We've got new people that are barely hanging on. This place is going to implode. I need to make sure you got your shit together, Boyd, because we need you. You're the only one that's kind of reined everything in. But even Boyd's losing his shit right now because he doesn't know, like, what if this is all not real? Now, and at the moment that he's questioning all that, more stuff keeps coming up, making him question it more and more. Now you're scared, and even Donna's probably scared of, like, please don't fall off the deep end. And Boyd's probably scared of, what if I end up in the exact situation as Abby, start believing that this is a dream, and they ended up having to put me down. Hell, Ellis might be the one that has to put me down. Kenny might have to be the one to put me down. Because it's like, what if how can some guy I just met know your name, Abby, and what you said to me? It has to be, most likely this is a dream. I might be in a hospital in a coma, and you and Ellis are right there waiting for me to wake up. Just wake up, open my eyes. There's no way none of this can be real. So it's like, is this kind of a mass delusion? Is this kind of a thing of something else that was revealed recently? Another story kind of uses the instance of maybe it was all in your head, but you were all part of this grand delusion. Maybe it was real, but you will never know for sure because you won't fully remember what you experienced. But everything that happened there mattered. It did happen. So you are, so maybe this is some kind of purgatory where, none of you did make it, and your trials and tribulations here kind of dictate whether or not you make it. Who knows? Because Boyd hasn't talked to anybody about what he experienced. Like, being lost is one thing. Like I said, he told Ellis about the Sarah and the tree situation, but he didn't tell him about Martin and everything else. So, because he hasn't seen those things crawling underneath his skin since last episode. Because he was checking the wound on his arm, which is real, but it's like, yeah, but that could have been my delusion of how I got it. But yeah, just because I got this wound doesn't make what happened real. I could have just got it somewhere else, some other way, and just in my head, I believed it was real, and that it went down because of I found this guy Martin and everything. So, Tabitha ended up talking to Jim about what she discovered. It's like, those wires don't go anywhere. So it's most likely like, where's the electricity coming from is kind of the big question. And even Jim notices the exit sign and he wants to go check it. And the older lady from the bus ended up telling him about Marielle and Christy. And it's like, oh, wait, what? That's the thing of like, because even Boyd and Donna were talking about that. It's like, what are the chances of that one of the people trapped here, her fiance would show up? Like, that's never happened before. So like, unless you came here with people, someone that's outside waiting for you, rarely will it be a situation of, oh, they find their way here. I mean, we don't know. There's been decades of this. So, I mean, even then, we don't know if Victor would know whether or not over the years, like, say someone comes here, maybe they died, and someone they cared about eventually showed up here too. Like, it has to be this place messing with people. It's obviously messing with Boyd's mind, but also bringing Marielle here to complicate things for, like, this has to be also be like some, because other elements in this episode showcase, this is some like experimental stuff. Like, something is like, for lack of a better term, it's fucking with them. Because it's just like, your fiance would happen to show up here. That's interesting. So, which Christy and Marielle's got to figure that out. And obviously she wants her space because it's like, right, I thought you left and you were gone for like 6 months, and then it turns out you've been trapped here. People are dead. You're acting like it's nothing. It's like, well, it's not nothing, but when you've kind of lived it as long as they have, it's kind of just sadly, it's something you want to prevent. It is sad, but it is just the sad reality of, hey, I've been living here for a while and I've accepted this reality. It's new to you, so it's a lot to process. But anyway, before we kind of finish, let's circle back to Tabitha. Obviously, she's looking after the kids, making sure they're taken care of. And obviously, Julie has to kind of, obviously, want to, prove herself beforehand. And now her mom's like, right, you want to be an adult? These are kind of the adult things. Like, we have to find and pick out some clothes from the storage because we have nothing of our own, because everything we had was lost in the house. Obviously, the town's also running low on supplies because the storm wiped away half their crops, so they're going to have to start rationing on that front. The Matthews are going to be staying with Kenny and his mom, and Jade, because I completely forgot Jade was staying with Kenny and his mom. So they're going to be staying there for a while, which is going to be interesting considering, like, once again, Jade had some connection to this place, but so does Ethan. But Tabitha starts seeing those little kids. It's like a little boy and a little girl, and I'm like, that's not like the same look. I wasn't paying as much attention, but I was just thinking, like, I mean, maybe it's a little boy and a little girl, maybe it's two little girls, I don't know. I think it was a little boy and a little girl, but I was starting to think, like, could that be the little boy that Ethan's been seeing, the same one that Victor saw? Because we haven't seen them at all. So now Tabitha, I mean, this actually goes into, like, Fatima and Elgin's side of things, where it's like, oh, you're the guy that was on the bus that had something. It's like, you had a dream of it. It's like, yes, some people just have that connection to this place. They see certain things, and piecing it all together, we still don't 100% know why it affects some more than others. Maybe, like, this place is whispering and, like, talking to people all the time, but only some people are tuned enough frequency-wise to really hear it. And honestly, it hasn't really given us an answer. People try to break it down and dissect it, and all it's led to is the conclusion: we're stuck here. That's all there is to it. And obviously, Fatima, like, you've seen that on her face, that expression. It's just kind of like yeah, she's given up. Like, at least a part of her is on the cusp of giving up. So that's why Boyd was telling Ellis, it's like, right, if she's kind of missing that piece, you be that piece and kind of hold her together. That's what you can kind of do for her. Also, get her a different band. That wiring, come on, man, you could do better than that. So he ultimately, with the aftermath of everything, wants to kind of marry her. But we'll circle back to that once I'm done. Once we, go back to when we're finished with the Kelly stuff, because that was brutal. But anyway, finishing up the Tabitha stuff, she's starting to see those kids, and it's like, what is that about? Like I said, I don't know if that has any correlation to the kid that Ethan and Victor have seen. But not only that, she also saw, like, there's a toy that's kind of like a puzzle that Ethan started piecing together. And the moment he started piecing together, I immediately was like, isn't that the thing you saw in the caverns below with Victor? And it was. And, like, it's like, wait, I'm seeing that. Once again, Jade saw the doll, but Victor and Tabitha also saw the doll down below too. So, like, is that all metaphorical or something? Or is it literal? The fact is, it's literally the same thing you were seeing above ground and below ground. Is it kind of like, is that supposed to be significant about this place, that once something goes missing, it's going missing because it magically pops down there below? Or is it supposed to be that thing? Well, because Jade saw the doll, but the doll wasn't really there. It was really there in the cavern, I think, but there's some, I don't know if, now I'm starting to think, like, could it be some temporal thing of, like, things kind of getting misplaced and just popping into random places? Once again, my thought was that those things, those monsters, are trying to pretend to be human, so they're they're constantly watching, and they're trying to, assimilate and pretend to be humans even more, so that eventually they can mimic enough human, like, elements that they could fully trick people, and they can hide themselves amongst It's kind of like Alpha when she snuck amongst the groups in The Walking Dead because no one knew who Alpha was because the communities were sort of divided at the time they were dealing with the Whisperers. That I think it could be an indication of like these things plan on utilizing that to their advantage too. Of like, hey, we're going to randomly pop up and pretend like we're regular people just for that. And once again, maybe it's let's go out there in the world and pretend to be regular people so we can go out there, kill and eat. And once again, maybe it's a body snatching thing of like, we're going to replace you. You know, we're taking all these people so we can replace you when we go to escape and go back into the world outside of this town. Just 100% pure speculation on my part. I have no idea. Once again, just spitballing all the possible theories. Because Tabitha had said previously, like circling back to like the visions thing, she had talked to Julie about how, she would see Thomas sometimes and hear him, but it gave her comfort. Obviously, these visions don't do the same thing. They're discomforting, in fact. And so she doesn't know how to make heads or tails of it. And I think it's something only she's seen because Julie didn't see it, nor did Ethan. So it seems like it's isolated specifically to her. And I don't know if this is trying to do a similar thing to Tabitha like it did with Abby and trying to tear your sanity down. We had the Jade and Victor situation. He found out about Jade being in his room and he's like, oh, Jade took something. He knew immediately like something wasn't right because he knows everything's kind of placed. Couldn't find something, and it turns out Jade took it, and it was the violin. And the fact is he's so protective of it, I think that's probably like, that might be his mom or his dad's. I think he only came here with his mom. I don't think he came here with his dad, did he? Well, because there was that guy from the photo, and I'm wondering, is that supposed to be like his dad, or is that just some guy that Victor was there with at the time? But, because Victor's not talking about the past much. So, but the fact is he holds that violin so tightly must mean like it must have belonged to his mom or something. And that's why it's like, right, you don't touch my stuff, just stay away from me. Because Jade's like, I've seen this symbol. I think this guy saw it too and you were there. Maybe this could all lead to us going home. Don't you want to go home? And I think for Victor it's like a maybe, but he's too scared to because he doesn't know what's waiting for him, because I guess whatever home he had died here while he had to kind of live on and on and on. Once again, it's been decades for him, so Jade kind of screwed the pooch on that. It's just like, stay away from me. He's like, well, fuck you too. And he's like, no, wait, fuck, I'm trying to get answers from you. Now I've kind of like screwed any form of connecting with you, so we'll see where things kind of go on that front. And finally, circling to it, it's a Kelly situation. I was not expecting that. That was wild when they find her, because they were like, because Kenny was like, yeah, there's a missing rod. I thought he was going to say like there was like a bear trap or something. I was like, please don't let Ellis or Kenny get caught in it. But it's like, no, it was a metal rod from one of the traps they had set up. And the monsters had used it to stab Kelly through the head. I was like, where's Brian? We know those two are together. Turns out Kelly's still alive. I guess it hit just the right angle, and the point was so that she would survive and live for a while, just to, I guess, so that she would suffer, because they want to, once again, I believe, mimic human emotions and feelings, and trying to, like I said, I do believe it's an experiment. But Ellis gets Kenny to go back and get Christy, and Christy's there, and they're all trying to, talk to her and keep her calm. But it turns out the things came in, they dragged Brian and Kelly out into the woods. They made Kelly watch as they ripped Brian apart. And they left her in that situation. Once again, I think it was just to kind of leave her suffering, because I guess it's almost like a, not even playing with your food thing, because they probably weren't even coming back to like feast on her. They could have ripped into her at any point in time, but they left her specifically. So Christy came to help, but the problem is there's nothing they could do for Kelly, because the way the rod's positioned, like, it's the only thing keeping her alive. And even then, she will eventually die. She's not feeling any of the pain right now, because I think all the adrenaline and stuff, like, it's kind of like making her not feel it. But eventually she will, and now they're having a conversation of Do we have to kill her? That's the only way we can end this peacefully. But Kenny's like, well, we don't have to pull out the rod. We could always go the gun route. But it's like, I don't want the last memory she has of having a gun pointing in her face and that fear being the last thing she has before she goes. So they're trying to sit there and talk to her. And it's like, oh, I want my phone. Can you, so I can call my mom? And it's like, phones don't work here. It's like, well, we'll write down this letter for you. And Kenny noticed like there was no paper and stuff. And they just wanted to make her feel comfortable. And her telling her mom, I'm sorry. Tell her I love her. I'm sorry I didn't hug her. We got into a fight about Brian, and I was mad at her, and just there's so many situations. Everyone kind of walked, at least the Matthews family is able to kind of work through their shit together, and as a family. Obviously, there was like so much left open for Boyd and Ellis when it comes to Abby, just because of the way things ended. Obviously, but they were in a good place. But it's still like how things ended. I mean, who knows how things were between Donna and her sister? So it's at least the Matthews seem like they're in a position where they can fully mend and fix all that they're dealing with, all of that they've had going on post Thomas dying. Boyd heard the screaming and he came along because Kelly, like, it finally kicked in and like the adrenaline, I guess, kind of wore off or dopamine or whatever, and she was starting to feel the pain again because Christy had to told her like, yeah, you are gonna die, and obviously they were going to be by her side during this whole situation. So Boyd ends up pulling out the rod, and immediately the moment that happens, she dies, and that was just. It was a lot for Christy. It was a lot for... Because Christy immediately went back to Marielle and was like, please, stay here. I need you to stay here. Kenny wants to go check out Cavardi's place to try and find something for the eulogy, and so they could say a word. And, Ellis is trying to make him feel better, being like, this isn't on you, because Kenny probably felt like I was the one that was kind of in charge. Just like Donna feels guilty, so does Kelly. It's like, if I had done what I could to rein the rest of those people in, maybe they'd be alive. Not only Donna scared them off, I did too. This is on me. I didn't do a good enough job, and that girl had to suffer because of me. Her and Brian, they'd be alive if it wasn't for me. So Ellis is trying to make him feel better, but that's not going to... It's not their fault. It is those things' fault, and it's just the way that things played out. It's just like the way the dice rolled, but it doesn't stop Kenny or Donna from feeling guilty. Ellis uses this opportunity. He's like, no, I'm going to marry Fatima. I'm going to make her feel okay. I'm going to be there for her, try to keep her holding on. So there's at least one wedding. I don't know if that's the one that Boyd was referencing, or whether he was talking about Christy and Marielle, considering they're engaged, but either way, that's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens on that front. But then finally, we had that thing with Boyd, which I was talking about when he was talking to Donna. He's like, the real fucked up thing is Kelly and her boyfriend Brian. The first person Boyd ever saw died was someone when he was in Iraq. Their vehicle hit an IED. The other two died immediately, but one of the people that died, the one that died in his arms, like ripped apart by the shrapnel, died begging in his arms. Who was it? A guy named Brian Kelly. He's like, what are the fucking chances of that? It's like, that's just going to solidify it more for Boyd. Like, is this real? Like, he's really going through it right now himself, but he's got to put up a strong front, not only for himself, but for his son. I mean, he's always had to, but this is really, really bad in this regard, because it's like, what are the chances of that? Once again, this ties back into the whole thing of what are the chances that Christy and Marielle will be reunited the way they are. It's like, there's something going on here. Once again, it has to be some higher thing or being or what the hell ever experimenting and like really pushing these humans for whatever purposes, whether it's to help the monsters assimilate as fake humans or something else. Then we had this stinger at the end where Kenny went in Cavardi's place, and I was like, it's going to be Sarah, isn't it? And of course, that's where she is. I wonder, did she end up back in town? She couldn't really talk to anybody about it because it's like, I mean, it's also ironic and interesting too. The person that would find you would be Kenny, because I had to remind myself, oh yeah, Kenny would have plenty enough reason to hate you too, considering you got his dad killed. So, as well as the person that was with Jake. But I wonder, did she get back to town way before Boyd? But she has nowhere else to go. The only person that was keeping her safe, obviously Boyd kind of kept her hidden after the whole Father Cavardi thing. So she kind of couldn't really be out and about in town because everyone has a reason to hate her, including the Matthews. So what's going to happen on that front in the moment? What does Kenny do? Does he because he doesn't know Boyd. The only person who knows Boyd was out there in the woods with Sarah was Ellis. So how are people going to respond when it's like, hey, Sarah was out there with me. I saw some shit. What did you see? What happened? Maybe we'll catch up with Sarah next episode and find out. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the hell all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.